first. Welcome everyone. As people are joining, you are welcome to have your videos on or off. This is a casual info session, so whatever you're most comfortable with, and we'll get started in a couple minutes.
Okay, everyone, we're going to get started. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon to learn more about the Grit Fund. I'm Krista Green, the Chief Administrative Officer at the Peale. As you know, the Peale's mission is to ensure the whole story of the city is told by amplifying community voices. We do that by working with local creators, storytellers, griots, performers, artists, architects, historians, students, educators, and all the other culture keepers who produce and share their narratives of the city and its places and the diverse people who make Baltimore City what it is today. So through Grit Fund, we really are excited to be able to amplify those voices even more. Before we get started, I want to welcome my coworker, Robin Marquis, and they are going to orient us a little bit more about what we're going to do this afternoon.
Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Robin Marquis. I use they, them pronouns. I'm going to visually describe myself for folks who are blind, have low vision, or are just not looking at their computers because they're cooking dinner. I am a light-skinned white person. I have long, straight blonde hair, wearing kind of a pastel light blazer, and I'm in a cotton candy pink room with some glitter in the paint. And some other access things about today. We have closed captioning available. If you'd like to turn the closed captioning on, you can go to the bottom of your screen and there should be a little CC button that you can click on or off. You can also change the size of your subtitles in your Zoom settings. We also have our Asl Interpreter, Emily, in the upper right hand of the screen. If you'd like to pin Emily to make sure that she's always where you want, feel free to do so. If you have any other access questions or needs throughout the event or at any point, please feel free to just directly message me and I'll try and get to whatever you need to do. And with that, I'd like to pass it on to Unique.
Good afternoon, everyone. Unique Robinson here. My pronouns are all of them. They're displayed in my name there. So feel free, pick one. And I myself am sitting in a white-ish room, and I am a Black woman with a Black beret on and dark-skinned skin and a white Janet Jackson shirt because Janet Jackson. So yeah.
Okay, thank you guys. And so I am a Black woman who has brown skin and I wear glasses. And in my room, my walls are actually a pale pink as well. And I'm sitting in front of my loom because I love all things fiber and that includes weaving and crochet. So that's what's happening in my little world. So you might remember that the Grit Fund was established here in Baltimore in 2015 by the Contemporary, and they had received generous funding, as we have, from the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts. And we are now the new Baltimore Regional Regranting institution. So they have a network of other visual arts institutions around the country, and we are now the Baltimore City partner. And they are really aiming to support vibrant, under the radar artist activity. And so they partner with us around the country to do that. So since 2015, Baltimore's artists have found support for their projects through Grit Fund, ranging from out of school time programs that connect our youth with STEAM opportunities and arts meet journalism projects that communicate hidden histories of Baltimore's Black community, to community festivals that recapture and remind us of the strength of our city's diversity. Grit Fund has been a dynamic, accessible, and much needed fund source in Baltimore City since then, and we're really thrilled to be able to be partners with Andy Warhol Foundation now and be able to move that forward today in 2020. Robin?
Yeah, so today we're all here to just be able to answer your questions, give you an overview of what the Grit Fund is, how to apply, and Unique is a past Grit Fund recipient. So they're gonna share with us a little bit more about their project, their experience, and we'll be here to answer your questions. So we want to save as much time for questions and answers because really this is about what you all want to know and need. But to start, I'm going to give a little bit of a rundown. And in case folks are visual learners, I'm going to pull up our website. Also, this is the place where you can come back and get all this information again. If you get overwhelmed or like, I only remember one thing from the presentation, this is where we have all of our information. So let me share my screen real quick. Oh, that's the green button. That's why I'm not looking at it. Okay. So this is our website. I'm on the Grit Fund Project Grant page. So this is what we're doing right now. The Grit Fund Project grants are grants that we give out to group collaborative projects for up to $10,000. The application is opening November 30th. So we're a little bit before that because we wanted to give you all ample information and time. The application will be open until March 1st. Then after that, we'll be reviewing it from March 2nd to April 4th, when we will also announce the jurors and the grantee awardees at that time, April 5th. And then the grant goes for one entire year. So the grant cycle will end April 5th, 2023. Here's information about what you're in right now. There will be 2 more of these. In case you have more questions, you also can reach out to us directly. We like to talk to people. But one important thing to think about are the guidelines for the Grit Fund. So all of the Grit Fund projects are collaborative. They are not for individual artists. We're encouraging people to work together in groups. And there needs to be a strong visual and or performing arts component. But we like people to work with folks who don't necessarily consider themselves artists, cultural organizers, collaborators. Collaborating across discipline and outside of kind of an arts community is encouraged. And similarly, you must be independent, so not registered as a business or organization. And the fund is for Baltimore City and Baltimore County-based artists and organizers. There's some more information here. I'm not going to read you the whole website because you can do that later, but we have details about what we've funded in the past, what kind of projects are not eligible, and then how to apply. So I'm going to tell you a tiny bit about this because it is different than past times, past cycles, if anyone has applied in the past. In order to apply for the application, you need to make a profile on our website. So it's this button up here in the top right corner that says profile. And once you've made a profile, then you can apply after November 30th. This button next to profile says apply, and that's where the application will be. So you fill out all your forms there. There's a way to submit media through Dropbox, and there's more details on that. But that's the process for applying. If you have trouble with our website, you can reach out to us directly. We also have plain text Word document form if people like that better and are struggling with the website. We want this to be as easy as possible. So feel free to use that process as well. There's a lot of resources on here, both about how to put together a budget, a sample project timeline. If you haven't written a grant before, there's more resources on grant writing, some frequently asked questions down here, and then further resources. This is what I was just talking about. So those are, I think, the most important high-level pieces. I'm going to stop sharing. Krista, is there anything that I missed that we should touch on right now?
Just that this grant is for Baltimore City and Baltimore County artists, arts collaboration groups specifically, and that the project should be public facing and that they should also be located in Baltimore City or Baltimore County. I think that's everything. Now we get to see the fabulous presentation by Unique Robinson.
All right, thank you so much, Kristen, Robin. So hello, everyone, again. My name is Unique Robinson. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for having me do this presentation. So in a far away land called 2019, myself and a team, if you can imagine, just that far ago, we were funded a project which was really amazing, called De-Capin, Healing the Black and Brown Superwoman Myth. Some folks in this room may have heard of it, some folks may have not, but if you did or didn't, I'm about to share my screen so I can go a bit more in depth. So here we are at the first screen. All right, so there's the title. We came up with that title for a number of reasons, but I will get into that in a second. So who were these folks? So it was myself and DZL MC were the lead applicants. We created a group by the name of blkottonkandy, which was an arts and wellness initiative that we created in 2017. So there's me, there's my information, Unique Robinson. I'm a poet, performer, professor, and at Micah, Towson U as well. And DZL is a visual and performing artist. And we decided to collaborate with Jayda J who is here in the middle. Jayda is also a performing artist and candle maker. Candles by Design is her brand, amazing candles. And she organized the Maya Wellness Conference 2 years before 2019. So we had attended, we had a great time. It was a really beautiful moments for the community that was in Dovecote as well as Indigenous. And we also Collaborated with Charnell Covert, who's a poet, minister, professor, community organizer, and dancer, as well as Sabrina Lee, who's a visual artist and graphic designer, Curtis Wilson, who's a filmmaker, founder of Gold Street Productions, and lastly, Mia Smith, community organizer and curator, as well as founder of Invisible Majority. So why this group of people? Right? Why did we think to bring all of these beautiful minds together to create this project? Really, it was playing to everyone's strengths in a way that would make it make sense. So this was the project. We received $7,000 for De-Capin, healing the Black and Brown Superwoman myth. So as we know, the Grit Fund is really about collaboration between artists, performers, what have you. So, you know, in brainstorming with myself, with Diesel, with Mia specifically around who do we bring together for this, right? How can we play up to the strengths of the folks that we know and love and collaborate with? How can we strengthen what's already happening? How can we strengthen what's happening with us as Black Cotton Candy? Because at the time we were a very newly formed sort of group. We had made music together, we made body products together, but we wanted to sort of take off and have a bigger platform. So we decided to apply for the grant. And as well with that, we wanted to also advance the platform of some of our folks that we knew. So the workshops, most importantly, were going to be free. We were going to provide 4 free workshops to discuss and unpack the Black and Brown Superwoman myth. And the workshops were focused on the notion that Black and Brown women must be readily available for others' needs while neglecting their own, of course. And, you know, these were not women's only spaces. They were Black folks, queer, trans, and non-binary folks that we thought will also be an important part of this process. And yeah, we decided, let's do some visual writing workshops. Let's do some arts workshops, some dance workshops, and let's have them in spaces throughout the community. And then let's have the Maya Wellness Conference at the end to sort of culminate everything that we were doing. So I'll get into kind of how that looks. So the public facing presentation of the conference would have taken place at Why Not Lot. And community involvement, of course, these projects and workshops were open to the general public, but especially Black and Brown folks in Baltimore specifically to be involved in the creative process. So why this, right? So we decided, as everyone can see now, but especially then too, right? We wanted to address the growing mental health concerns of Baltimore's Black and Brown communities through a creative lens. So I myself, as a Black queer creative, you know, and all of the folks that I knew, you know, we were just understanding and seeing that mental health had become an increasingly more important issue in our community. And rather than wait for someone else to do something about it, we decided, let's create art about it and really hope that this art can create dialogue and an open space for collective intergenerational dialogue for BIPOC folks to discuss what healing and self-care could look like in various spaces, work-life balance, familial relationships, career, et cetera, whatever. And also to support community efforts like Mind Your Wellness and allow it to exist on a larger platform. So we were going to fund that, and also to support and promote the work of the Black artists and organizers involved in this project, which I'll go into in a second. And lastly, to collaborate with and bridge the gap between local institutions and their surrounding communities, which is why we decided to hold it at MICA and the Why Not Lot, because that's a central location that many folks go to, regardless of where we are in the community in Baltimore. So plan in motion. What did we decide? What did it look like when we deduced it all? We were going to provide these 4 free creative workshops from March through April of 2020. So here's our timeline. So prior to this, because we received the grant in about June of 2019. So we were just in brainstorming mode and really just getting everyone together mode. And then we decided March to April that we were going to launch, right? So the plan was to have all of the supplies for the workshops. Of course, visual arts workshop require a lot of materials. The dance workshop, not so much. Writing workshop, journals, or maybe on your phone, but the body product makers workshop would also require a lot of materials as well, because the hope was that people would go home with their own body product from that workshop. And each of these workshops will be recorded by Curtis Wilson, and we will create footage to promote at the promote the My Your Wellness workshop and conference, and which will be held in May 2020 at the Why Not Lot. And what the conference really was a visual art. It would combine the visual art from the participants in the workshop, combine the writing from participants in the workshop. There would be performances from Black Cotton Candy, Jayda J, other local Black performers. And we would stream the film that Curtis created, which would document the process in the workshops, as well as the conversations and the importance of prioritizing Black and Brown women's mental health. So here's a promo video that we made to promote what was happening. Hopefully this plays. I don't need this to not work. Come on. It was working earlier. Give me 1 second, y'all. My apologies. Technology is very frustrating this week. I don't know about the rest of y'all. All right, let's see if this works. Oh, well, I guess it doesn't want to play, and I'm not going to stress it. Maybe now, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have the patience for this. So we made a promotional video from Curtis Wilson. It's a really beautiful video. Maybe I'll try and just play it outside of Google in general. It's really bothering me. So here it goes. Technical difficulties and scene. My name is Unique Robinson, also known as Unique My Count in artistic circles, and I'm the co-founder of Black Cotton Candy, an arts, music, and wellness initiative.
My name is DZL MC, other known as D, like the letter. I am the other co-founder of Black Cotton Candy Arts Initiative here in Baltimore.
Black Cotton Candy and being an arts, music, and wellness initiative, you know, we thought needed to be beneficial and in the direction around healing and addressing wellness in our community, especially as Black and Brown women. So we decided to create the project called De-Capin, Healing the Black and Brown Superwoman Myth. And there's this idea that Black and Brown women have to carry so much, so many of their burdens, but not really take care of themselves or their own. So we wanted to provide a space to talk about that and talk about what that looks like and how we can utilize these moments of self-care and also drive a conversation around it using these different artistic kind of vehicles to do so.
My name is Jayda. I like to go by J Aura, my little stage name. One of the hats that I wear is event planner. What you can expect to see is, yes, the showcase of all of the what's been created throughout the month of June with De-Capin, all of the art that's been created there. But it's also Mind Your Wellness, which is an annual event that I put on.
Hello, so my name is Charnell Covert, and I go by the name of the Wounded Healer. I'm an artist, I'm an educator, community organizer. So I'm excited to be a part of this workshop with Black Cotton Candy because I've been best friends with Unique for over 20 years and Diesel for 10. We've worked together in many capacities, particularly Unique and I have been poetry sisters since high school. And now is the opportunity to be able to bring forth a part of my skills and a skill set that I have not brought forth, which is dance, and using my poetry and writing and wellness in that workshop. So this is going to be very exciting for everybody because we're bringing together a lot of different things and I'm really looking forward to it.
All right, so grateful that that played. All right, I'm gonna stop that share. So come back out here and go back to the presentation. So yes, so that was the video and the promo. We were very excited for everything that was about to take place. And the whole world said, just kidding. That's not happening. None of that is happening. This is what's happening, COVID. So we had to pause and take a sacred break and understand where we would go from here. We also met up with Khadija, who at the time was the project manager for the fund, to really talk about how do we reroute, what does that look like? And then we decided to have a collective conference call with Zoom with the collective, where we asked, what do we do from here? Can this event or our original idea even happen? What else could we do instead that would still be feasible? So this happened around February. Well, no, not February, because COVID happened then. So around March, April, we started to sort of make these decisions. So from that conversation, we decided that this is what changes needed to be made realistically. So the in-person, all of these events were going to take place at MICA. We decided to scrap all of that because everything closed down and everything became virtual, right? So the writing workshop, visual arts, dance, and body product making workshop, which basically just became a commercial where Black Cotton Candy would share our recipe for our body products, which is Cocoa Butter Kisses body butter, as well as an energy spray that's really, really popular and amazing. And we just decided to share that recipe one time only. And Maya Wellness Conference in general will become virtual, and that would take place June 28th through 29th. So kind of pushed our timeline back, but that was okay. We were permitted to do so. So of course, this is what took place in the conference virtually. So Black Cotton Candy and Jayda, we decided to plan the conference itinerary, which was a mixture of performances, arts and wellness workshops, conversation, and local Black-owned business promotion in Baltimore. So we had meditation. This is the visual arts workshop. This is the body product infomercial. Charnell's dance workshop, Black Cotton Candy's performance. We'd farewell, and then we'd open back up on Sunday and go from there with the artist showcase, Black Cotton Candy's performance, Black-owned business shout out, another artist showcase, which was Jayda and Sharita Harris, another local musician, Black Vulva, and then the wellness workshop provided by Queen Nina Love. And then we were farewell. So I created this flyer in the meantime to promote this all over Instagram, emails, word of mouth, et cetera, and word spread really wide. So I was happy about that. So these are some very, very basic highlights from the conference, and I'll explain why in a second. But yes, this is us. You know, we provided it on Zoom. There were a number of many great participants, really high energy for the whole 2 days. It was just a really, really beautiful healing space with really dynamic conversation around these topics and work that was created. And then Queen Nina Love came in and we did a sort of bath salts workshop with chakra crystals and ylang and herbs and lots of different amazingness. And she also provided a really beautiful nutrition wellness workshop with her expertise as well. And here is a quick video. Hopefully it plays. If it does not, Jayda has an amazing voice and you should hear it. And here it goes. Maybe, maybe not. Yep, not doing it. So Jayda, amazing singer. She's still doing her thing, but she and Sharita Harris, they were performing their set here with a drum set. It was a whole amazing, amazing time. So then what else did we do? So because we had to shift gears, that meant that the funds in the original budget that we had to sort of rework and reroute some funds, right? But they still went to the places that we thought they were best served. So we gave a stipend to Jayda to purchase goods for the conference and for organizing it in general, because we believe that Black creatives should be funded for their work and labor. A stipend to Charnell for facilitating the dance workshop, a stipend to Mia Smith, for creative direction and consulting of the grant, a stipend to Sabrina Lee for creating Black Cotton Candy's website, blkottonkandy.com, a stipend to Curtis Wilson for filming promotion and conference footage. But unfortunately, someone stole Curtis's camera and footage in 2020. So there's literally no record of the conference at all, unfortunately, other than what I showed you in a few more videos that I did not show for the interest of time. Yet, this is a real thing that happened. So it was just an unfortunate moment. But, you know, we wanted to make sure that we well-funded everyone who was involved. And we also, for ourselves, decided to purchase musical equipment and body making ingredients, body product making ingredients to support Black Cotton Candy's 2020 launch of products and new material, and 2021 as well. And where are we now? Continuing to perform individually and collectively, creating and working with and in community arts and at the collegiate level. And this Grit funded project showed us that collaboration is possible and there's strength in numbers. The community desires more of these types of creative efforts, how to be flexible when circumstances are out of your control, and how to successfully fund your own projects and see this creative vision through. That was probably one of the biggest lessons I learned in that time. So this is the end of my presentation. So thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to keep in touch. There's my information there if you have any other questions that might come up beyond this presentation. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. Let me just change my view and unpin you real quick. Thanks for your patience, everybody. That was fantastic. Thank you for sharing all of that, both your successes and the challenges. It's great to see kind of behind the curtain. And we are just going to open it up to questions for Unique about their process, for us about details. Any question you all have, please, you can put them in the chat. You can unmute yourself, video on or off, whatever people are most comfortable with. So. I do have a question if no one else is. If people are kind of thinking through their questions, I know it takes a second. I know you talked about kind of your process of deciding who you were going to collaborate, and you went into that, which I think was really helpful. I'm wondering if looking back, you would have any, I don't know, any just like tips for folks thinking more broadly about how they would start thinking about who to collaborate with, like if you go to your friends or if you're looking for people who do different types of things than you, or I don't know, just like a little bit more about that process. I would feel intimidated by thinking through that.
For sure. So I think it was a bit of a natural collaboration and what came together from it. I know that we had Black Cotton Candy, we had our own sort of vision for what we wanted and what we saw in our particular own work and wellness initiative. And then we also knew that, you know, Jayda, Charnell, me, all of these folks were also wanting to continue their own creative vision and work. And I know that Jayda felt very dear about My Your Wellness. So we said, you know what, why don't we combine forces and actually like do this, right? And make it a big thing. So you know, and then it was in terms of the creative minds that we brought on board. So Mia, we knew Mia, if anyone knows Mia Smith, she's a powerhouse in Baltimore. So I knew that it would be great to work with her in terms of the creative direction, to know that, you know, how this could be a feasible project, because I think that's very important. Sometimes we get very ambitious with grant projects, and sometimes we get very narrow. So Mia was able to sort of help us look at it in the middle and sort of have a good meeting of the minds around that. Curtis, of course, is an amazing filmmaker. So we wanted to bring in his expertise and vision as well. So, and Sabrina is an amazing graphic designer and artist. So we knew that we wanted to collaborate with her, with our website and with other materials. So we just sort of looking at all of the folks that we knew, but also who were brilliant in their own right and wanted to just highlight and promote that. So that's how it came together.
Thank you. We did have a question from Susan. Would you fund the production of a play set in Baltimore? It would be a collaboration that includes a director as well as actors. Krista, do you want to share your thoughts on that?
I was actually answering in the chat.
Oh,
so I'm going to say yes, a proposal that culminated, you know, in the production of a play is allowable, you know, definitely. And I'll put this in the chat. There's a list of the types of things that are funded through GRIT, and that definitely includes, you know, public events and festival screenings, etc. So this is a public event. So absolutely a proposal about a play that took place in Baltimore would be considered.
And I think the one question, without knowing more details about it, would just be as long as it's not an organization that's applying, like a playhouse or something like that. You know, there's some specific details in the website that go into a little bit more about like what's the difference between groups who are applying together, creative groups versus like a nonprofit or something like that.
Correct. That's right.
We have another question from Camille. Do you have to have your full list of collaborators already together when applying? Can the list change if needed, expand or shrink? Great question.
There should be, you should have a core idea of who your collaborators are. Obviously, you know, things happen and someone may need to pull back, or you may have an opportunity to add a collaborator and deepen a portion of the project that you didn't think about initially when the proposal was submitted. So definitely additions But you should have a clear idea of the collaborative team and the programmatic idea, however it's going to realize itself when you submit your application.
Katie says, I apologize. No need to apologize. The whole point of this is for everyone to ask as many questions as they want, as many times. If this was asked earlier, I had some technical difficulty. Does the public event need to be in person or could it be totally virtual?
I think, you know, we have to remain, you know, flexible and conscious that we're living through a pandemic right now that is not done. And though right now we're seeing some really positive numbers and things in Maryland seem to be stabilizing, the reality is we don't know what could happen. And just as Unique's project started, their project started as being an all in-person event, and they had to pivot to an online virtual event. So yeah, definitely, if your proposal is presented and funded as an in-person event, but you know what's happening in the world requires that you need to now go virtual, then you have to go virtual. That's not of anyone's fault. It's just reacting to our environment.
Or if you want to start off doing virtual, you know, from the beginning.
Right.
Totally
and
okay.
I think that absolutely, you know, we're living in a time where you need to be able to produce in both an in-person and an online way dynamically. So yeah, absolutely.
Susan asks, is there a limit on the number of proposals you'll fund or a total number amount? Money number amount.
We have $60,000 to grant, and we're awarding up to $10,000. So that doesn't necessarily mean that every grant will get $10,000. Everybody may not ask for $10,000. But if everyone received the maximum, that means that there are six projects that are being funded at $10,000 each.
Cherry Lee asks, a friend and I have a project in mind. It's work we've already started doing. I think she may be part of a second group that is wanting to apply. Is there any issue with one person being part of more than one group applying this year?
I have not seen a restriction in the past that prevents someone from submitting proposals or being a part of more than one proposal. So I'm not gonna say that there's any prohibition there. I think maybe I'll do a little bit more research around that. Please make sure that you put your contact information in the chat, because I'm not 100% sure, but I am 95% sure.
We have another question from Teferi. Do culinary artists qualify?
As long as the product that's being produced still fits into one of those categories and is a public-facing expression of your culinary art, I would say yes, there's no prohibition on that.
Yeah, the Andy Warhol Foundation, who funds this on the bigger picture, they really want there to be a visual arts component at the core of what's happening. So that, if you can make a good case for how culinary arts are part of visual arts, which I think it can be done, and or maybe collaborate with a visual artist. So there's multiple components to that.
Right. I mean, we've all probably all seen High on the Hog by now. And so, I mean, that is basically a visual expression of, culinary art, culinary history. So yeah, culinary arts can manifest in all kinds of ways.
And Emma pointed out, which is very helpful, I think last round it was that a person couldn't be the lead on more than one project, which makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
And Anna says, can we apply if our start date is before the grant notification date?
No. No, because you wouldn't know if you got the award yet. So absolutely, no, I'm going to say that your project should not start before the date that notifications go out to everyone who has applied that they have either received an award or not. I see lots of familiar faces or familiar names. Hello. You all.
We'll give a few more minutes if people have other questions that bubble up, but I'm also going to put our email address in the chat so folks can email us directly. We also are happy to have phone calls or one-on-one conversations. Krista and I are the main 2-point people that will be answering the Grit Fund email address. We also have our Peale email addresses too, which I can share.
There's another question from Ephraim Nehemiah. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I know a visual art component was mentioned, but is there anything else that funders are looking for our prioritization? It's visual, but it also needs to be accessible to the public. That is another requirement. So it can't be a private performance or a private exhibition. It needs to be available and accessible to the public.
I would say the thing I've noticed about, what's been really strong and kind of themes throughout people who've been funded in the past is just a really strong collaborative group. So people who are coming together from different disciplines, from different communities, who have different practices, who are, bringing all of their different strengths and ways of approaching work to make a really vibrant and different type of program. We are interested in people doing out of the box things, trying new things, being experimental. So that's what I've always noticed about the Grit Fund and what makes it such a vibrant part of Baltimore in the past. So I just think if you want to look on the website at past applicants and to see who has been, what kind of projects have been funded, I think that helps people get a good idea of what's being looked for. We have Susan, is it okay to charge for this public performance, especially if the grant doesn't cover your expenses? It's a great question. I'm going to double check.
I don't readily know the answer to that. There isn't anything in the previous documentation of the grant that says that the public facing event needs to be free. It just speaks of accessibility, and cost could be an issue of accessibility that's umbrellaed in that. So please put your information in the chat so we can find out the exact answer to that question.
And then Jan says, can you give an example of a collaborative exhibition or public art installation?
Jan, I can't think of one. Unfortunately, I don't know all of them in my head right now, but we do have on the Grit Fund website all of the past grantees. So if there is an example on there, I'm just doing like a quick.
Yeah, I know Savannah Wood with the Afro Archives Project did, that's on the list, or on the list that the website that I just sent. That's a really good example, as well as which one was it? The
I was
Henry
thinking
Photo
of
Project.
Go ahead.
The Henry Photo Project, there's a lot of them. You said Sweaty Eyeballs Film Festival. Yeah, that just happened again.
And then there's the Unmonument Project that was, definitely public arty, but in kind of like in an accessible, individualized form. I think you could do a fabulous proposal there, Jan, about a collaborative public art piece. Look forward to seeing that.
Ephraim asked, do all of the collaborators have to live in Baltimore City County or just the lead?
The thought is that the team is Baltimore City, Baltimore County based.
Katie says, Unique's fabulous project had a huge component of the community engagement involvement. Is that necessarily looked for in the applications?
Yes.
I think the public facing is also the language that we've been given is public facing, and to us that means public engaged, community engaged. Ariel says, can the entire project be online?
Yes.
Yeah. Any last questions before we wrap up? Again, we'll have another info session December 15th, I believe. We just confirmed the date today, and that's actually going to be with the Sweaty Eyeballs folks who will be joining us for that one too, if people are curious about that project. We've got another question. What are and how do the publication parameters work exactly? Can you clarify what you mean about publication parameters?
Yeah. It's okay if you want to unmute yourself and just talk.
Well, maybe we'll come back to that when we have a little more clarity. Susan says, oh no, here it is. The category of publications that was listed above.
Yeah, I put in the chat just the list of the types of, just an idea of the types of projects. And so publication, say it's a collaborative, you've done an exhibition, or your exhibition is in a catalog format, or it's a community focused zine, or that kind of publication. Not necessarily you've been working on your monograph and you're going to seek funding for publishing through Grit Fund. That would not necessarily be a public facing project that engaged a community, even though the result of the information, of course, would be, probably great for the community. But this grant is really designed for broader collaboration and definitely broader community appeal, public appeal.
Jan says, if the request is for an aspect of a larger umbrella project that has begun, can you apply for that portion?
Yes.
Susan says, do you know of venues that will entertain public performances?
I mean, there are lots of venues in Baltimore City and Baltimore County. I don't think that it would necessarily be appropriate for us to recommend a venue. And also through your collaboration, you may discover a very interesting venue that enhances your performance.
And you don't need to know the venue when you apply. That is one thing that if that's something that's not confirmed yet, that's okay. Big Vibe says, is additional fundraising allowed for projects? Yes, that's an easy yes. And then Teferi says, is there a minimum maximum team size requirement?
More than one. You can't be a team of one.
Yeah, there have been projects that are teams of two. And I don't think we would need to say a maximum. I mean,
no.
Yeah, that's up to y'all. To clarify about start dates, if the umbrella project began before the funding date, but the portion applied for starts after that is okay. Yeah, I think that's what you're just saying, right? Yeah. Is there any restriction for lead artists applying that might currently be in grad school?
No. The idea is that you're independent artists, so grad school, no grad school. I don't think
that's up to you.
No requirement there.
Is there a suggested amount for artist stipends?
We don't have on the budget form like a recommended amount there. So I don't have a specific for you, Jan, but I can see if there is a benchmark that they suggest for.
Yeah, Unique.
I can speak to that. I think it's more of a conversation that you have with the artist about their rates, because that's when it starts, get it into that, right? So say, for example, with Curtis, he's a filmmaker. Filmmakers get paid as they deserve to for their work. So we gave him $1,000 for all of that, right? And then for facilitators, we did that at a specific facilitator's rate. For conference organizers, we did that at a specific rate. So it's really up to you and up to what your needs are in your budget, how much you give to your collaborators.
Any last questions rolling around? Does there need to just be one performance public event? I would say, yeah, it depends on your project, but we're not saying that there has to be a certain amount. With Uniques, it made sense to have a series.
Right.
Some people just do one big thing.
Exactly.
Thank you, Maria Teresa. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. Any last questions, or we will wrap up today. Thank you so much, Unique, for being with us and sharing about your amazing work. We just really, really appreciate all you have shared today, and everyone for joining. Krista, any last words before we sign off?
No, I don't. Apply. And if you'd like to join us next month, we'll be taking questions again, and we'll also have another Grit Fund Path recipient that will share what their collaborative group did for their award. So definitely not to be missed.
I'll also say, if you use social media, we are on all the channels. And you can find the exact handles on our website. We also have a mailing list if you want to make sure to stay up to date on what's coming up. So thank you all so much for being here.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, everyone, I'm going to end us now unless there's more for the good of the order.
All set. Yeah, all good.
Thank you.
That was great.
Thank y'all. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Peace.